Welcome, everybody. We are going to share our screen while we wait for some people to sign in. Give me just a moment here. All right. There we go. So we're just going to let some of these events that we have coming up, we've been pretty busy for the month of June. And we have a lot of things that span a lot of families at different ages and for situations that are, across the board for the spectrum. So we'll give everybody just a few minutes to sign in, and we'll let this roll through maybe 2 or 3 times, and then we'll go ahead and start our, presentation. So we have wonderful OT event coming up, sensory needs. Everybody's at home, so that's good. This looks like a fun one. The Autism in the Outdoors, a parent's guide. Gonna get dirty for that one. And here's a little information about the Autism Center, Misericordia, for parents and educators, the Autism Educator Support Alliance for professionals, and you'll also see the Autism Hub information there for the Executive Hub. Executive functioning coming up, lots of really cool things. This Saturday is our last Facebook Live for Social Stories Saturdays. After this Saturday, we will just be posting different topics, but not videos. So we'll let this one roll through and let some people sign in. And then we'll get started. Yeah, there's 5 autism collaborative centers of excellence. We call them the hubs. So, all right, we'll go ahead and stop sharing. There we go. All right. So welcome everybody. My name is Lindsay Dragon, although it shows up as Kristen Hoffman. So I will be moderating this evening, and this will be recorded and posted at a later on our Facebook page, so you can visit and look at things anytime. Really quickly, if you have any questions during the presentation, on the bottom rail of the Zoom screen, you can click on the chat button and ask your question. And at the end of the presentation, I will be posing those questions to both Karen and Rob. So speaking of, welcome Karen Luciano and Rob Tizot from MassMutual Special Care. This is going to be a great, heavy topic, but a very important topic that we all need to be aware of as autism parents. So I've known Karen and about this program for 2 or 3 years now, and it constantly changes, as does everything in the autism community. But for things that we may not be experts on, I always say, let's go to the experts. So on that note, Karen, go ahead.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and to talk to everybody. Like Lindsay said, this is a really important topic that I think a lot of people don't think about. So what we focus on is, obviously, we're financial planners and we specialize in special care planning. I started about 5 years ago, and Rob has taught me everything that I know. I've just been really passionate about this because there's so many people that need the help and don't know where to find it. I didn't know anything about this type of planning until I started with MassMutual either. So it's been very eye-opening and really fun getting to know these families and help them. So Rob, if you want to tell a little bit about yourself and then get started.
Sure. Hey, again, thanks, Lindsay, for having us tonight. I always love the opportunity to share with other families just like mine. If you saw my bio, you know I have my son, Adam. He's going to be turning 19 in 5 days, so we're really excited. Birthdays are a very special time in his life, so we always have an awesome day for that. But, my job as a parent of a child with special needs is, I want to make sure that families are aware of all the things that they have to look at. And we're going to talk about the big things tonight, the things when mom and dad aren't around or they're too old to take care of you, one or the other, that there's a plan in place for when you're no longer here to take care of your family. And that's what really we're going to focus in on tonight. And then once we've hit those bigger aspects of that, we can dovetail off into bigger things or different, more precise things as far as the planning is concerned. But I love just to help families and just feel open to answer, ask any questions that you have about this. But I've been in every situation imaginable you can think of. And, the main result is that you guys have peace of mind, that you have a good plan in place. So again, we're just going to hit the highlights tonight. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and is it okay to start the presentation? Karen, do you want to start?
Okay. Yep, you're good.
All right. Okay. Let me see here, my slideshow. All right, is that big enough for everybody's screen there? Everybody can see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, real quick about my background again, too. And special care planning is, I've been doing financial planning for 25 years now. And, like I said, my son is 19. So 19 of those years, when I became a parent of my son, he just, there was a lot of things that kind of, as he grew older, we started running into like IEPs and different things that, as far as their education plan is concerned. And I really like that stuff. We had all these people sitting around the table all at one time talking about my son's individual education plan. And that's kind of what threw me into this period of time, is who's helping the families talking about this. Because when it comes down to it, it's the most important decision that you're going to have to make for your family. Because our child, I have 4 kids altogether, and I know Adam's always going to need lifetime care. He's always going to need somebody to take care of him. And if it's not me or my wife to do that, we have to have a plan in place, and that plan has to be funded and it has to be communicated with the family. So that's kind of who we are and what we do. Kind of a scenario. I like this presentation because it's short and sweet, so we can get to any questions that you may have, but it also hits the real big topics. So again, tonight, the agenda we talked about is, a little bit what is special care, and then we're going to get into these life care planning steps, and that's really where we're going to live tonight mostly, is the big things that we have to hit, and they can go in succession. Part of the planning that Karen and I do, and again, doing this my whole life, is, we want to make sure that the family members know that there's not a rock that hasn't been unturned, that we know exactly what the plan is, and it can be communicated to the family. So, and we want to have that centered around that individual that's being cared for. So we do practice person-centered planning. And then there's these top 10 questions if we get to those things. And then again, we'll talk about what my and Karen's role is in helping you, guide you through this process. Okay. Again, special care it's basically a program. I joined MassMutual now 9 years ago, specifically because of their special care program and the training that it did involve, learning all about government benefits, how they work, not only for when your child turns 18 and they can qualify for getting that money, but how do you maximize that money? And then that's the real big, I'm sure everybody on the call, if you haven't heard, when your child turns 18, they become an adult, and that's when they're eligible to receive SSI monies. And that's also when they become, when assets and things become countable towards them, anything over $2,000. So, as a parent, if you have a job and you have group life insurance and you bought some life insurance and you have an investment plan and so on and so forth, and you have a car accident and you pass away and you haven't done this planning, there's going to be money that's going to get to your child with a disability. that's going to disqualify them from benefits. So this is partly why we want to, that's one little piece of why we want to do this planning. And the rest of it is mostly is that because we know our family member the best. And we want to make sure that their life is always being cared for. So, and being expanded. So we want to educate families. I'm always, my family's clients of mine have all different, come from all walks of life, business owners. It's quite a pleasure to work with the families and to see that. But it's also very good to see once, there is a secure financial future in place and we know what the plan is. It's a peace of mind for you that you can focus on your own retirement, knowing that those things are taken care of, But again, let me go to this next slide here. So that's a little bit about special care, life care plan, again, what it is. We're going to get into. So this is where we're going to talk a lot tonight, and I'm just going to stay on the slide. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this out there, this is a really good one. Because this is kind of how I do my planning. When I meet with my families, we sit down and we get to know each other. Every family is unique and different, and mine's pretty big. So we have a vast resource of people that could care for my son. And then again, my oldest child is my daughter is 23. And she, currently is not in the plan as far as a caregiver for my son, not yet. She's awesome with him, but she will morph into that decision. So these are things that, again, once we hit the big things, where you're at today, and then as your children get older, or the plan will change. But it's hitting those big things first that will make all the difference as you go forward. So again, we want to sit down, get to know what the primary issues are, and start also looking at your life care plan vision, what your expenses are, what your future expenses are, and then that also goes into, and as far as the vision is, then we look at guardianship and alternatives to guardianship. Now, a guardianship, could be a dirty word for some people. I don't know, words are a lot in this world, but when you pick a guardian, you have to pick, when it comes down to your legal documents, you need to pick a guardian for who's going to take over for your kids. If you have minor kids, or if you have a child with disability, they have to have somebody that you're going to name to take over for you. That's who that guardianship we're talking about there. Now, if you're, as a parent, when your child turns 18 and they, let's say their disability is, where they need they're nonverbal, they need full care, you need to apply to the courts and get a full guardianship for them. And so you can make financial decisions, medical decisions, and all the things that need to be done, apply for their Social Security, so on and so forth. But then there's kids I know on the autism spectrum that are very high functioning, that drive cars and do, lead fairly normal lives, but they have difficulty in certain areas of their life. So you might not need a full guardianship in that arrangement. You could do something like a power of attorney just for medical decisions or for financial decisions. Those are something that you can discuss with your child when that time comes. So understanding guardianship on those two realms. There's one when you pass away. So again, we're talking about when mom and dad go, okay? That's when this stuff, all this planning that we're going to talk about today, this is when it all kicks in, okay? So we're identifying who those people are. And once we've identified them and taken that, like I said, my daughter can be now repositioned into that plan when I feel she's ready to take over for that. She's in nursing school now. She's not married. So there's a lot of things that I wouldn't want to burden her with. And I have trusts for my kids as well, my 3 typical kids. But Adam's trust is a special needs trust. And we'll talk about, that's number 8. I know probably enable accounts as well, but just to hit special needs trust and what that is, it's basically a vehicle that has special language in it. It's just the wording in it that just basically said the money inside of this trust can't be used for anything that a government benefits supplies. Okay, it's there to supplant it. So so you could have $1 million in a special needs trust, and it doesn't count $1 towards that $2,000, but now, it's $780 a month or whatever SSI is. That's no life, for a child. A lot of times that's to make that. So that special needs trust is there to supplement all those things that government benefits are paying for. So mostly SSI pays for food and shelter. That's the only thing we have to remember. So anything that doesn't pay for, and then we have their medical benefits, which go along with that, which are really, really good on that side. So that's what we're protecting those against. And the other thing too, going a little deeper too into Social Security and just understanding that is when your child, like my son, when he turned 18, we went down to the Social Security office and we applied. Now, Down syndrome is a fairly easy one. It's listed on there as far as they get the benefits. A lot of my clients that have children with autism are having an issue. So what I would tell you, families, just to be on guard, and this is part of the planning that I help my families with, is to prepare for this meeting, and get you ready for it if you haven't done it already. Or if you have done it and your child is getting money, but it's at a much lower rate, they're deducting you for living at home under your own roof and not charging for their household expenses, which is the food and rent bill, their share of it. And we'll talk about that if you want on a more personal setting. But just understanding how Social Security works, how you qualify for the maximum benefits, and then how you keep them, okay? And there's two different programs we have to learn about. There's SSI, which is Medicaid. That's the means-tested program. That's the program where, again, it's to $2,000. But now mom and dad are still alive. They've worked their whole lives, and now they're ready for their retirement, and they take Social Security, okay, retirement. Or in the event they were to get disabled before they retired, okay, and had to collect SSDI, either one of those programs, either you retire or you become disabled on your own, your child then gets one half of your benefits. So let's say that's $2,000 a month. Again, these are things that we ask about when we're looking at financial resources there. Number 4, we want to pull out your Social Security. We want to know what it is now and what it is in the future. But that is that program, they do not, they come off of SSI and Medicaid, and then they go on to mom and dad's program. And let's say if they're getting $2,000 a month, they're going to get one half of that. That's $1,000 a month, and it's not means tested anymore. And they're going to go on Medicare at that point. So down the road, the program gets better, but I can also tell you they can be in both programs too at the same time, even though the parents are in retirement. So it's all depending on the financial resources of the family. And this is what, we help you with as far as guiding you through this. The next one, number 5, okay, as far as financial resources too, we'll look at, what your group benefits are, what you have at work, what you've done personally as far as life insurance. We'll look at your car, your home, anything liability-wise that could hurt you. So we do a full, what they call a risk management assessment of your portfolio, which will address your disability, long-term care, your health insurance. We will address your Social Security benefits. We will look at your wills, trusts. If you've already created them, I can tell you, nothing against attorneys, but once they've drafted your will, there's nothing more they need to do. So if it's not connected to your beneficiaries on those insurance and IRAs and investments that you have, it's not going to get to where it needs to go anyway. So we have to make sure, if we have a will and a trust set in place, that our beneficiaries state that. So we want to make sure that all the pieces are put together, and we want to identify what all those financial resources are. But SSI is a big one. People leave a lot of money on the table in the monthly amount that they can get just because they don't understand how the system works. so we can help families recoup some of that money and help them bring it back into the family, and then a lot of times some of those things can help fund the future estate plan for their child too. So we'll talk about that too. So the next one, number 5, is again what those life care plan costs are. What do we need to plan for? What does that bucket look like that would kick off like X amount of money per year or per month, and that's kind of what we're kind of looking at. And as a financial planner, I always tell families this: there's one thing I can tell you that is for certain in life, and as one is you're going to pay your fair share of taxes, and number 2, we're all going to go one day, and I just don't know when that day or the hour is. And for doing this for 25 years, I've done last year, a lot of family members of mine had passed away. My mother, father, a bunch of people that were very close to me. So I've handled a lot of estates over the last few years. And just recently, one of my good friend and client of mine, age 45, was, out on a Sunday bike ride and was hit by an unlicensed driver, ran a stop sign and killed him. And he had 2 young, precious little kids, and we just celebrated Father's Day on Sunday, and Dad's not here anymore. But I can tell you his wife and his kids financially are taken care of very well, and they don't have to worry about that. They can focus on being a family, and not having to sell their home and so on. So all in all, that's what this planning really does. It's peace of mind. And when you do that, it often, not often, it does open opportunities for how you treat your own retirement, and how you do that. And that's how we can actually get focusing in on those things once we've hit these bigger things. It's really awesome, actually, how the two work well together when you're looking at it as a big picture. Again, the next thing is letter of intent. I'll come back to that in a second. But the next thing we're going to look at is preparing your legal documents. Again, if you have your legal documents, Karen and I will do a free review. We have MassMutual Trust Company has legal attorneys on our staff. They can't do your legal documents, but they can do a review of them. And we can talk about, if there's any changes that need to be made. And that from there, we can really focus in on, who's who in the plan, and then communicate that to the family, and then see if there's anything missing. And if you don't have your legal documents, we're going to make sure you get them and start the process of getting them. And there's a couple ways of doing that based on how you want to do it. But we work with local attorneys, and we also work with a legal service that could help you in preparing. You're going to prepare 3 documents, which is your will, last will and testament that says who gets what and who takes over for you. That's where you name your guardians, and you name your trust that you set up. So that's your will. And then you have, while you're still alive, you have a power of attorney, which is for yourself. Let's say you're incapacitated, you're in a car accident and you're in the hospital, but you can't do anything. So you need to have somebody that will make medical and financial decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. And then the last one is like a living will, which is kind of like a healthcare power of attorney. It's like a dual document in Pennsylvania, at least, which is that will, if you're on life support or whatever, how long that, what happens in those stages of death if you're not, probably not going to make it back. So that's the core of what you need in your legal documents. And then the next thing is the review of the special needs trust. So the special needs trust is the main vehicle, again, that you're going to leave money to a child with special needs. So again, because the money that goes in there, they have no access to it. Okay, it's for their benefit, but it doesn't show up in their name. You're going to name a trustee for that. And that could be the same person that you name up in number 3, which is the guardian. So in my case, I always tell this, my sister right now, she just turned 40 yesterday. She's the guardian for my kids. She's awesome with all my kids. But she's not so great with money in respect of like a large amount of money and managing that and managing a special needs trust and what that entails. So I have, for that part of it, the money part of it, I have MassMutual Trust Company as a co-trustee with my sister. Okay, what does that do? MassMutual Trust Company is a fiduciary. They have a financial responsibility. They know how trusts work, how to administer them. They have copies of your legal documents and what your wishes are. And then they work very closely, i.e. with my sister right now, should that happen. And they'll help her set up the trust. They'll invest the money. They'll do the tax return. They'll pay bills. They'll make sure money is spent improperly, so on and so forth. So especially when it comes down to trust, I can send out to Lindsay there's like there's a website. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. It's been a little while since I've been there, but there's a special needs trust or a trustee handbook. It's called, and it's very good. It's about 30 pages long, but it goes into great detail the roles and responsibility of a trustee. Okay, if you're put into that role. What you can and can't spend money on, and so on and so forth. So it's really important that you look at having a trust company or a co-trustee or even a second person that's better with money in conjunction with your plan. And again, all that is discovered after we've sat down. After we sat down and talked for a while and got to know the family and their specific needs and wants. So again, that special needs trust again can be written inside your will, which means it's a testamentary trust. It's words on a paper. It does not go into effect until both parents have passed away. So in my case with my client who was just killed, his wife, now everything gets passed over to her. Okay, and now it's upon her death that when the guardian sets up the special needs trust setup. But now what we're thinking about, because she just told me her uncle, the uncle, wants to leave money to their daughter who has special needs, okay, in his will. So what we're going to have to do now is make that special needs trust live. What's that mean? The attorney's going to drive a standalone contract. We're going to apply for a tax ID number, and we're going to set up an account that we can put money in. And that the parent will be the trustee of that, and that document will name, just like your will did, who's going to take over for you in that circumstance. Okay, but that's what we're going to talk about. Special needs trust. Do we need a testamentary in our will, or do we need a live one now because we know somebody's going to leave money to this, or they're going to inherit money? All those questions are going to be answered. I don't know, are your families familiar with the ABLE account at all? Do you want me to hit that at all a little bit?
I do know that some families whose children are a little bit older have done the ABLE accounts. So you should definitely hit on that as well. And not to mention, I mean, having a child with special needs is hard enough. Now, I mean, I have a degree in art. So to go into finance and then legal on top of figuring out special needs, I'm so happy that you have, that you guys are here, because it's just it's a lot to take in. So definitely touch on that ABLE account. I do know that some people have them, but also that the people who are listening or would need to know what their options are.
Yeah, and to dovetail off of that, I always tell families, I'm not here to replace anybody good in your life. If you have a good investment advisor or whatever that is, we can work as a team. If they don't understand special needs planning, they're going to screw it up for you. And that's what we don't want to happen. So, the ABLE account, in respect to that, I'm going to give you my take on it. I like them for money if the child is making, if your child is making extra money, or if there's a gift or something that of smaller value, let's say, that you want to, or create a savings plan for them and use it for bigger ticket items that you want to spend money on. Okay. But essentially the money that goes in there has to come from outside sources. It can't come from your SSI check. It has to come from a gift, or it comes from your earnings that it accumulates in there. It just doesn't count towards that $2,000 when it's in there. And you could put $11,000 up to a year into it. or is it 14, whichever the gifting amount is, I think, is what you can put into it per year. But again, when you use the money in there, it has to be used for anything that can be used towards their disability. There's things that obviously you can't use it for, and they're mirrored after education funds like 529s. That's like kind of how they're mirrored. Like 529s are for college expenses. You can use them for books or tuition or for a multitude of things. And the able account is very broad what you can use that money for. Unless you were to get audited, I guess that would be the only way. I think they could. But it's pretty flexible what you can use that money for. Now, once it gets over 100,000, then it will start counting towards the $2,000 mark and affects your benefits. But to me, that's where my opinion as a financial planner, this is not a tool that you want to use to accumulate a lot of money in. Okay, you can get quite a bit in there, but I mean, the key is when that child passes away, if there's money left in that account, okay, whenever there's an account that they use or can use that doesn't count towards government benefits upon the death of that child, then that money can be counted back towards Medicaid. It can be paid back towards Medicaid. That's a little bit of a problem with it that I could see. So that's why I'm saying how huge you get that account. We can discuss that. But as far as your estate planning tool, what you would have your life insurance, your IRAs, your bigger ticket items would go into this special needs trust on number 8 right there, okay? And how you would use that. So you can use both in conjunction, but not the able account as your estate planning tool. All right. Number 9, then we're going to hold a family meeting. We're going to talk to everybody that's involved and understand what their roles and responsibilities are. And you're going to have those handbooks. We're going to make changes to the beneficiaries that we need to make changes to. And that's it. And then, again, this is not a set it and forget it thing. There's a lot more planning that needs to go on after this. But this is the bigger things. And then we're going to look at the plan at least annually and review it. You're going to get a call from me and Karen to sit down and talk about it. Because like you said, Lindsay, tax laws change, family situations change. A lot of stuff can change in a matter of a year. So we need to, again, once the big things are taken care of, then all we have to do is insert the changes where they need to be made. Okay. All right. So we'll go on the questions at the end. Again, this is just a diagram of person-centered planning. And this diagram came again with an IEP. You had the school psychologist, you had your teacher, the aide, all these people sitting around, the IU person talking about my son's education plan, which was great. And it was very individual in what they did for him to help him excel. And that's all I'm doing is the same thing. We want to make sure that your child is able to excel under all circumstances. And we need input from all these professionals in order to get the plan right. But I'm going to be the quarterback and help make sure all the pieces are put together properly. So that's where I guess my role is. These top 10 questions, again, these are things that you can, if you want to screenshot this, these are just things, have you thought about or haven't you thought about? And that's a good thing too. Karen and I we don't charge a fee for our service. We want to make sure that as a parent that you have a well instrumented plan, and we just want to make sure that there isn't anything that you did or didn't hit, and there's a lot of you, I'm sure, that just don't know where to start, and you need a starting point and somebody to help you walk you through that. So we're here for either one of those.
Rob, real quick, it was really interesting how I came across Karen, and it really, we attended a sensory-friendly movie, and Karen and MassMutual was the sponsor. So we put our little ticket in to, we didn't even know what for. So I got a call from Karen saying that we won the big bear.
Oh, right. Yes.
And I'm talking, this bear is like 6'2", and it's huge. So, but whenever, I'm a special needs financial advisor, I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know anything about that, and it's probably going to be expensive. But I went to pick up the bear, and she was like, I'd love to talk to you about it, and wasn't pushy at all, which I expected.
Yeah.
And it was something I was very hesitant to go for, and I swear she changed our lives. And just having that education just given to me willingly, and she wanted to share that with me, it was definitely something that I'm not used to since we started the autism journey.
Yeah.
So it definitely was a very good service. So that's
Yeah.
why we're still doing this.
That's great. And I appreciate you saying that. And that's how I look at it too. I've been doing this a long time. I don't need, I'm just here to help somebody and make sure this stuff is done right, because I've been in situations, it's all going to happen to us one way or another. And I just always say, do it planned.
Yeah.
And, I've done the research. I have the people I think I can trust that can help you, and putting the team together. And that's why we work together with all different organizations, because that's how we all learn, and benefit from, the stuff you learn from me and from what I learned from you. So yeah, let's um, so again, there's my role. Kind of, we just summed that up as you were talking about, and just coordinating all those efforts and providing that analysis, that overall, and then we can kind of cherry pick what we need to do first and go from there as far as the checklist is concerned. And then again, how we work together with other nonprofits. Again, that's what we do. That's how I meet people. And then again, we're looking at that. So that's it on my end of the presentation. I think, do we have any questions at all? Do we want to start that?
I have one that came in. It says, how early should parents look into a full guardianship or power of attorney?
You won't need it until they turn 18.
Do you need to set that up ahead of time though, or do you wait until that child turns 18?
You wait till the child. Yeah, I mean, just briefly before that, yeah, I would start getting it going. But as soon as your child turns 18, you can set the appointment to go to Social Security and get that set up. Okay. Now, again, Social Security, depending on, your child your best, but I have a checklist that I have right from Social Security, but I would go to ssa.gov. They have a lot of good information on there. Before you set up your appointment, but get your ducks in a row, have your psychological reports, your IEPs, medical diagnoses, anything that could benefit you for your plan. Because what they're looking to see, because they're going to order psychological reports and things for a lot of these kids, and they're going to find out, that they can work, or they feel that they can work. So sometimes we may have to get an attorney after the fact, if we've been denied the first time around. So again, if we can get an approval the first time, that's the best case scenario, because it does take a little bit of time to get your case heard the second time around.
Right.
Yeah. So
we have another question.
sure.
Having MassMutual as a co-trustee seems great, but is that a service, or is that, how much does that typically come in place with the, I don't know how to phrase that.
They're asking what it costs, I think, is what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
I think that's what the ultimate question is. Yeah.
Yeah, so like MassMutual Trust Company, they have, like, if you're doing your legal documents and you want to name them as a co-trustee, but it's not a trust that doesn't get set up until you pass away, that testamentary trust I talked to you about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just named in there. They have provisions which names what their fees are. So I mean, typically it's $1 million is their minimum account size. Okay, so if your account size would be lower than that, then we would look at maybe a local bank or something like that that could take that, or something else that could take that size. Okay, but essentially what they do is their fee is like 1.4% for that whole amount, for that million, up to 2 million, and it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
and that is a little bit negotiable too, but you get a trust officer, you get an investment officer, you get all those ancillary services that you don't get in a brokerage account. And that's what you're paying for essentially, for those services. But
Great.
if you don't need, again, you're not paying for any of that stuff until it goes into effect.
Yeah. One last question. Somebody wants to know, what is a 529?
A 529 is an education account. Okay, so you can put money aside in a 529 in the name of a child, and it will grow tax deferred, and proceeds can be paid out tax free as long as they're used for education purposes. So a 529 is a specific account for pay for education. So now if your kid doesn't go to school or whatever, and you take that money and you cash it in or you spend it on something other than education, then you're going to get 10% penalty in taxes on that money. So that ABLE account is just mirrored after that. So the ABLE account has to be used for anything that child disability. It could be for transportation. It could be used for all kinds of stuff,
Right.
but can't be used for booze and, like expensive cars and that kind of crazy stuff. So, yeah.
My kind of account.
Yeah, right.
All right. So that's all the questions that we have at this time. So
Okay.
there we go.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. Do you guys, do you have anything else you want me to talk about, Lindsay, while we have a little bit?
One of the things that I've come across as a parent is that I've moved across country at 19. And so I don't have a family here that is a part of my son's, daily life. And also, do we have, some families don't have large families or, medically capable. What happens
They're
when
older,
you're
right?
all, exactly, what happens when there isn't anybody and you can't choose family as a beneficiary or a a trustee to any of your accounts?
Yep. There are guardian services that are around that you can hire, and that's one of the things that a special needs trust can pay for. Even if, and special needs trust can be administered too on a basis. So families like that don't have a caregiver that would take over for them,
Mm-hmm.
or family members again that are older or wouldn't do it anyway, something like that, you can do what they call a pooled special needs trust. And the pool, basically all the money goes into the pool, and then they pay out for your needs and stuff, and they manage the trust. It's not managed by me, or it's managed by, I believe, the Autism Society has a trust. I know that's another big one. ARC is another one that has a big trust. Okay, and you can go into these pool trusts, and what the money does, and when that child passes away, the money stays in the pool to benefit the rest of the kids. Okay, that's how that works. Or you could have a professional guardian that they could pay for too, that will check in on them, make sure that they're, everything's still set up. So a lot of times those families are already set up in the system,
Mm-hmm.
as far as a group home or whatever that may be, but they just make sure that those things stay in line. Yeah, there are services we have to look at. If that's the scenario, we can help you with that.
Yeah, we do have a question that's coming in.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if that individual knows the chat box and how to use it. So we'll give that just another moment or two for that to come out. For anybody who's listening, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you will see a chat icon pretty much in the middle. And if you click on that, you can ask your questions, and myself and the panelists will see that. And we'll be able to answer that for you. Now, Rob, where are you located?
Well, my office is in the Lehigh Valley.
Okay.
But I drive up to Wilkes-Barre all the time, and Karen and we have an office up in Kingston. So that's where we meet with our clients, or right in their homes typically. So, or we could do it over. We can do meetings like we're doing right now, which is
Right.
the norm right now seems to be. So.
Yeah.
Well, and I was laughing whenever you said, we'll call you every year, because every year Karen calls me and I'm like, I have to get back to you because we play phone tag for a good month or two
Right.
before we get in touch with each other. But I definitely think that this is just one of those things that people don't want to think about. And so they just, they ignore it, and if I don't think about it, it doesn't exist, but it really does.
Yeah, I know, and that's why, you know, I'll help you think about it. It's that important, because if you don't think about it, it'll be forced upon you, and then it'll be a mess, and that's what happens. When these decisions aren't made, nobody knows what's going on, where anything is. That's when the problems occur. That's when they get kicked they get kicked off of benefits. They lose their place in line at the facility, whatever that is. There's a lot of havoc that goes on. So if you have this all planned out, believe me, it's a lot better life for you and your family when you know it.
Okay. Our question came in.
Oh, good.
So we have, if we have life insurance for our son to apply for disability, the SSI office told us unless we cash it in and as his savings bonds, we wouldn't qualify for it.
Correct. So if you have life insurance in their name and money in their name, and they're 18, that means, and it's over $2,000, until that money is spent down, or below that amount, then then you can apply for Social Security. So those are areas, again, that will help you with to do that. But that's why we don't want, in all good intentions, you do a 529 for your child. So there's money in those bonds that we can move into an ABLE account. That'll take it off the radar screen, but the money that's in the life insurance is a little different. We have to take a loan from the policy or take some cash out of the policy to get it to a certain point. And then we'll talk about how you own it too, is another way of doing it. So, but yeah, this is stuff that we have to deal with on a daily basis. All good intentions, mom and dad, did with buying the policy, but now it's going to affect them adversely when you're going to apply for benefits. So.
And I've actually seen that prior to having children and being part of this, scenario. I worked in retail, and I remember one of my customers was like, I have to spend all this money.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, what is going on? Like, this just seems so crazy that they had, and that's what they did a good job explaining it to me at the time, but I'm like, I'll take your money, so I've seen it happen where they had to get rid of it. So,
sorry, my son needs to.
Oh, sorry.
This is Adam, by the way. He had to come in and say hi to us. So.
Hi. Hi. How are you?
Me.
Yeah, your birthday's coming. Yep.
Nice. Happy early birthday.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, buddy. Thanks. I gotta work. Okay. All right. Thanks for saying hi. I'll see you.
My kids are trying to bust down the door, so I accept that. I'm happy that we got to see him and wish him a happy birthday. Our same question before that, how do people get in touch with you to set up an appointment?
You can, if you're up in that area of the Wilkes-Barre area, then Karen's gonna give us her email.
Yeah, you can email me or call even. My email's klugiano, so my first initial, last name, at financialguide, guide.com. Or you could also call me. My cell is 570-406-1406.
And Karen, that was klugiano at mutualguide.com?
No, Financial Guide.
Financial Guide, sorry. I'll put it in the answer box.
Perfect. Thank you.
There we go.
And we can schedule a meeting from there just to talk over the phone, or we can set up a Zoom meeting like we're doing right now and discuss certain situations. But if you're looking again to again answer specific questions, but as far as the planning process is concerned, what we do is we set up a meeting and then we get a questionnaire for all of your information so that we can start that piece and look at what you've done so far. That's kind of where we start at.
One of the things that had really helped me was that I took, I want to say, a good week, and I got any documents that I thought might be needed. I didn't want to have to go back, because if you're a parent to a child with special needs, you don't have a lot of time to go to all these different appointments. And this is not, I mean, as important as this is, it usually gets pushed to the back burner. So my advice from going through the process would have been to, even if you think you might need it, throw it in there. You can, I walked in, I don't know if it felt like a laundry basket full of, documents. And, but I didn't have to go back, and we were able to get everything right then and there. So that was something that I think, if I hadn't had that in advance, would have taken, oh my goodness, I have all this work left to do, so it was nice to have it all there for that day.
Yeah. And the process, obviously, there's a lot that goes into this process, but the good part is you do it once and we get you set up, and then every year it's just little changes. So it's that first year is really when the big things happen, and then every year we just monitor and update as we go. And every parent I've ever talked to afterwards, it takes a weight off their shoulders, because we all think about it. What's going to happen? Like if something happened to me, what's going to happen to my child, whether your child's typical or not. We think about that. So to know that it's in place, it just gives you a little bit of security.
Yeah. One thing that I really like about your company and the way that you guys handle your business is that when you're a part of the community, when I go to any event, I see Karen there. I always see her there, and that doesn't mean that she's there as a sponsor. She's there with her family. And I remember I went to a bowling event, and I was like, hey girl, like, how you doing? So it's one thing to, constantly be bombarded by services, but it's another thing to see who's a part of your community and who understands. And you don't have to have a child with special needs to understand, to help a family with special needs. So that was something that I very much appreciate as a parent, was seeing you and your company out and about at all of the events to get the information out there. So thank you for that. And Rob, I'm so sorry about your friend who passed away, the last couple of days. That's got to be really hard.
Yeah. So, but again, like I said, he did the planning and it was in place, luckily, so it doesn't bring him back, but it does make life, easier for them going forward. So.
Right. Well, I don't see that we have any other questions. However, this has been recorded, so we'll have your information on hand. If anybody contacts us for any questions, we'll forward them to you. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time and the unbelievable amount of information that you brought to the table. And I understand that we just touched on things, and that is really frightening and awesome all at the same time. So thank you again for the time, and we'll do this again.
All right. Thank you again, Lizzie.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. All right.